live. Welcome back to Man to Mike. This is Zach. I'm in a mess right now. I'm trying to get all my stuff straightened up, but this is what we do. This is organic and raw, and we're just flowing today. So, fun story. I am back again for the second time with Mr. Chris Bolton, Knoxville barber, recovering addict, friend of mine, and much, much more. And he has a lot to offer, and I'm excited about sitting and talking with him. But the thing is, that you all don't know, is a couple of weeks ago, we already did this. And, there's learning curves along the way. And in those learning curves, I have made some mistakes, evidently, and some technical issues that basically I lost all the audio. And so we're doing this again. But I think it was kind of meant to be. And I kind of told you about that. Because, when we were talking, I was kind of trying to keep these videos to around an hour to try to get some algorithm or something. And then after I cut you off to try to keep that hour, I was like, man, I shouldn't have done that because it was really getting good. Like we were really getting into some awesome conversation. And then I felt like I shut it down. And so when I lost the audio file, I was almost like, man, maybe this is a God thing. I don't know. But so I'm excited about doing this again, giving you the full space and time and the ability let's just talk, dude.
Yeah, dude, I don't even know where it's going to go right now. Because like I said, before we hit record, today hasn't been the greatest headspace day for me.
Yeah.
And last time I wasn't comfortable 100% to say I'm going through a breakup, but I am, and it's like my first major breakup, and I don't know if I ever learned even in recovery, I don't know if I ever learned 100% healthy coping skills on how to. And I know that I definitely didn't learn it as a kid. I definitely didn't learn it from my dad. My dad was also an addict, so he was an artistic guy. And very emotional. So I definitely learned how to identify feelings, but I never learned what you're supposed to do with those.
Yeah.
Besides get fucked up.
Yeah.
So it's weird going through that clean and trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do, but it's reaffirmed to me yeah, you're still an addict. The void still exists, and you will still try to fill that to the best of your ability, but it's different than it's ever been, right? Because nothing is working.
Yeah.
So I'm being forced to just
deal with it.
Yeah, to just sit with it.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a lot of praying. I just think in some of the roughest times, especially being a little out of practice with prayer.
Wow.
It's hard to feel. It's hard to feel God's presence because one of the things that I did too is I put her in that spot, and that's not a diss to her. That's not something she made me do. You know what I mean? I just did that. I got a lot of value.
Yeah. And
all of that from it, and I think there was a lot of codependency at play in the relationship, but also. Just some normal things that happened in there happened where my focus was on that, and so much of my why was wrapped up in the family aspect of where we're headed. That now that's gone. All these areas I've been putting all this energy into, are gone, and it's well, what do I do with this?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, and especially that whole prayer thing that you just said, that kind of hit me really heavy because I have been struggling with that. And prayer is always something I've never been just really good at, and I've always wanted to. And I think of it for me as just I have struggled with understanding God as Father and not compare him to my Father here. And so it leaves me in this weird place where I struggle in my prayer life, but I'm recognizing more and more my desperate need for that, something that is so much greater than yourself.
I feel me, the surrendering aspect of prayer is hard. I'm pretty good at saying foxhole prayers. I'm pretty good at asking for my needs to be filled. I'm really horrible at listening to what God's will for my life is, or handing over my perceived control of things and trusting that at some point me and God will be on the same page. Like sometimes I think I get scared that like what I want and what God wants aren't the same thing. And one thing about me is like I'm tenacious.
Yeah.
So like if I want something, I'm gonna keep heading there, and I'm gonna like basically batter the door down to get there if I have to, you know? And that might be a thing from addiction.
I really think that that's a lot of it, because I can totally identify with that.
Yeah. So just as far as like prayer goes, like it's hard for me to surrender the things that I want and kind of just let God work.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the reasons that I don't like feel God's presence all the time. You know, and sometimes if I do take a step back and I take a moment to breathe, I can feel him working in my life.
Yeah.
But I have to really take a step back.
Yeah, I definitely have to do that from time to time, because I can get so caught up in work and things that I want to do and pursue and chase that any pursuit of a prayer life or anything that almost takes kind of like a back seat, because I get so zoned in. But then I get so up front and so close that like I can't see anything anymore. And I have to take that giant step back and realize that just because I don't feel God's direct presence in that moment doesn't mean that he isn't sovereignly working in a much bigger picture if I would just take a step back. And I have to remind myself of that a lot, and I do not do good, because I've got Icarus syndrome. I've got a bad case of Icarus syndrome.
You want to fly close to the sun?
As fast as I can and as hard as I can. And it's always to my detriment, dude. Always. Only in this right here, like this whole studio, this whole podcast could become to my own detriment, and I recognize that. Fortunately, with some age, I'm able to take that step back a little bit and recognize, like, there's a way that you have to do this. You cannot run at this thing with your Icarus syndrome, because then I'm going to start trying to force things. And the only way that this is going to work, it has to be organic, man.
Yeah.
It's got to be raw, authentic, organic. And I don't want it to be anything other than that. So,
well, I feel that too, right? Because I think that sometimes, like, I will want to rush my process, like whatever it is, like fitness-wise, I want to rush it. You know, like if I'm not showing gains in a week, I'm like, oh, I'm just not working hard enough. You know, if I'm not, it's like anything. If it's not producing fruit fast enough, I forget to like let my process take place. And this morning, one of the most profound things, I'm in a mentorship for barbers. I'm in a 6-figure barber mentorship by 245. And it was awesome. We were all in the Discord talking this morning, and one of them was like, you know, here's my confession, guys. Like, I hate spending money. And me and this other dude were like, wow, wish I had that. You know, I feel like every time I leave the house, I spend like $100. And like it got on and going, and you know, like it was just a couple of us talking about that and like telling little confessions about things that we're trying to work on around the holiday season. And this one guy started asking for advice, and another guy that like I've been following pretty closely in the mentorship and like kind of looking up to, like we have a lot of things in common. It's crazy because there's a bunch of grinders in that mentorship, you know, like the one who said he hates spending money, dude, he's like 21 years old, owns a couple properties now. He's making like $210,000 a year.
He's
like
awesome.
he's all gas, no brakes. And what he decided was he wanted a wife and he wanted that. And like, that's it, you know? And right now, you know, like he doesn't have kids and he's just able to keep focusing on growing and scaling his business, his wife, and getting close to God, you know? And it's amazing to watch, but his process isn't going to be everybody's process. But this guy that was in there giving advice to somebody else, he was like, you know, if you know your why, you can build everything else from there. And I've heard him share before that he's not trying to grind it out. You know, he's like, I'm proud of all you guys who do. If my process takes me a little bit longer, but I get to spend time with my wife and kids on the way, and we have what we need for now, he's like, I know that I'll get financially free. It might just take me a little longer. Yeah. And I think, you know, like that struck me as really impactful this morning, because I was like, well, you know, like your why has to develop a little differently. Because my why was the family thing. My why was where I was headed with that relationship and with, her son and the family that we were building and that I wanted to build,
Yeah.
So like at some point I've got to refocus on what my why is so I know what I'm building again.
Yeah. And sometimes we go through some hard stuff to refine us, to show us that why, I feel like.
Yeah.
I went through a rough patch like 2 years ago, and I definitely learned a whole new reason and value for my why after that. And it was one of the darkest times in my life. I've been a person that's never struggled with depression, ever. I never understood what depression was, dude. Like if somebody, because my mind always goes to the most positive, we'll figure it out. Like I'm always that guy. But dude, I had gotten to a spot where I was so miserable, man. And I was working and working and working. And I was working so much. I was taking on so much work. I could have never done it all. And I knew that I couldn't. But I was just pushing and pushing and pushing. And then one day I broke. Like there was just something in me that just kind of broke, man. And I couldn't see anything positive there for a while, man. And it was really, really dark. And I made mistakes along the way. I messed up along the way. I turned to alcohol a couple of times, man. I can't even lie about that. This is a place of honest confession, man. We got to be real with this stuff. And I was just in a really dark place, man. And fortunately, it was a refining process, though, and I needed to be broken. Like looking back now, I needed to be broken. I was too full of myself. I was too off track. I needed to be humbled, and so I'm so grateful that it happened, and I'm where I'm at now. But it also gave me the ability to understand depression. It's something else I can talk about now because I would have never understood it.
I think that I used to think depression was like intense sadness.
Yeah.
People would talk about it, but it's like a fucking empty feeling.
Dude, I couldn't yes, there was just nothing, man.
Yeah, it's nothing. And like in times like that, like I'm dealing with a little bit of that now, like I said earlier, like I get to see like how hollow I am and how big my void is still. And like I do try to feel it. Nothing works now. And like you said, like God will work in your life that way to refine you. I know that I'm being refined right now.
Mm-hmm.
And my resistance to it is making it a little harder on me. But like, yeah, I understand, like I'll use work to make myself feel better, or in an attempt to make myself feel better. And I feel like I've been going to work and going extra hard since all this happened, just because like I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't know what else. That's been such a constant over the past couple of years that like I don't know what else to do, so I'll just show up at work. And I feel like it would probably be in my interest to take, which thank God I have a vacation coming up in 2 weeks. I'm going to be in Colorado snowboarding.
Yeah, I'm excited for you.
It'll be so good, dude. The thinner the air gets, the easier it is to breathe, which isn't like actually true. Like physically, it'll be harder for me to breathe, but spiritually, it'll be easier for me to breathe. I feel way more connected when I'm out in the mountains like that, and it's just like, it's me and a bunch of other tourists, but like I feel like it's just me out there.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just me and whatever friends I've brought.
Yeah.
And the snow. But yeah, like I think that it would have been in my best interest to take just like a little bit of time and just to kind of, I think another thing is like, I don't really allow myself to get off the grind.
Yeah.
Like I have such a high bar that I hold myself to. And I think sometimes to be honest, like you said, you took on too much. Sometimes I think I put too much on myself and expect or demand too much from myself.
Yeah. Yeah. See, for me, because this is why it was such a profound thing for me, was I'm go all the time, like nonstop. I've been like that for years now. Like since my like first long stint of sobriety when I got sober like 12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And oh man, I'm bouncy balling, Chris. Where was I going?
Well, you said after your first stint of sobriety, when you first got 12 years.
Yeah, that's where I was at with that. Gosh, man, I do that all the time.
You've been go.
No. That's what it was. And so I got to, when I hit this wall and everything just shut down, for me, it wasn't work because I don't know what else to admit. I got to a spot where I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. Like I'm talking, it just, when you say that there was just nothing, there was nothing. I had no drive. It was like my drive was up here and then it just shut off. And like for me, it was the most profound experience of my life in a way, because it was just like I became a totally different person for several months. I feel like in a lot of ways, and I don't know, man. So that was just, I don't know. That's why it was so weird for me.
I think that I think that depression hits at different times separately, because I feel some of what you're talking about. I just end up going to work, and I think maybe because I don't know if you were still able to do photography or anything during that.
Dude, I couldn't even open my computer to do anything. And if I didn't have help in editing and stuff during that time, and I feel bad, man, because I clients hire you, and especially when it's their wedding day, with an expectation, right? Yeah. And I'm becoming super delayed on their photos because I literally, there was a lot going on in life, but I'm also in a mental state that I can't even open my computer. I can't do it. I've sat here behind this computer for so many years and I've spent so many hours. When that wall happened, I was like, I can't open it. I'm done. I don't know.
No, I get that. That's one of the things that I was about to say. I can do the physical aspect.
Yeah.
Right. It's been hard for me to want to make the content that I feel like I need to be making. It's hard for me to do the administrative side because, for those of you who don't know, cutting hair is a fucking sales job. And it's a data analysis job. It's a marketing job. And I don't have the headspace for any of that part of it. I barely input my data into my spreadsheets lately. And I have to force myself to do that part, because I'm if you don't maintain this right now, all this work back here was for nothing. So you got to at least do the bare bones right now. And I have to pep talk myself into that. But yeah, I feel you. Luckily, 12-step fellowships have come to my rescue again. I haven't had to turn to alcohol. I've wanted to. Bro, I've wanted to. I've wanted to turn to lots of different things, but I don't want. And I questioned whether or not I could for a while. And I guess that's,
we can't. We can't.
I guess it's still a reservation in my head, but the thing is, I don't ever want to. I don't want to add that to my life as a solution.
Yeah.
If I decide to try that, I don't want it to be in a time when I'm in emotional crisis. I don't want it to be when I'm in pain. I don't want it to be something I'm searching for some solution to a problem, because then it'll become my solution to every problem.
Yeah.
Just like how it all started forever ago.
Yeah.
So, maybe God will never give me the opportunity to feel like this is the time. And maybe I'll smash that reservation eventually. But 12-step fellowships have come to my rescue during this time, and I've ended up around some other people in recovery that are going through this right now.
Yeah.
So we're all in a group chat together. We've been leaning on each other every day.
Yeah.
Just some real honest admission to each other every day. And that's been good. That's given me something to lean on in this time. But if I had to go, if I hit a wall in the middle of hitting this wall and didn't have that right now, I don't know how I would.
You probably would be where I was at, because that was probably one of my biggest problems looking back now for that process, was I had isolated myself so much from any kind of fellowship. And I was pushing so hard. I was working. It was just me just working constantly, and I wouldn't give any time or energy or effort to anybody else. I didn't have any friends. Just being honest, I do today. I've got people today.
Yeah.
But then I didn't have anybody. I didn't feel like I take it back. I had two people that I could turn to in that moment, and we got a lot closer. But if I had have just had more of a system, a support system, a fellowship, maybe that whole time of maybe some guys that I had grown with. And that was something that my rebellious nature never allowed me to experience, was the NA fellowship.
Right.
I was too rebellious and always just felt like this is not for me. I can do it my own way. And not to say that you can't just go out and get sober and stay sober, but man, if nothing else,
do it. I've seen people do it.
Yeah, but if nothing else, man, just having a group of people, man, that you can just identify, and people that are not addicts don't understand that addicts need addicts. Like we've got it, because other people don't understand our personality. They don't understand our humor. They don't like we'll say some stuff and think we're going to be in a locked up in a room somewhere. Like people be looking at us weird, you know. But other addicts are like, oh yeah, man, that's hilarious, you know. And
you can't joke about some of the stuff we joke about with normal people.
But we need that ability to get that out.
Right.
That crude humor that we have, that's a lot of it's negative, and that negative has to come out. We need other people we can give that to.
Yeah, like a pressure valve. Like you got to release some pressure every now and again. And one of the things that sticks out to me is that like men do need fellowship. Like men need other men, and they need other men in their lives. Just as much as like leaders need leadership. Like, you know, like you can't be a leader and not be allowing yourself to be led in certain areas too. Like when you get all on your own, and I think this goes for addicts and just normal people too. Like when you get to a point to where you're isolated all on your own, and I see like a lot of stuff on social media about this, and it's especially stuff that's like aimed towards young men, and it's like isolate, focus on yourself, go through your winter arc, you know, and it's like,
especially
no, bro, like
in the fitness community for these young kids, like just get down and grind.
Yeah, and like, yeah, the grind's important.
Yeah,
but dude, especially if you're a young man, pick like a couple of your friends and all y'all grind together, or, you know, like, pick your friends based on people who are doing the same thing as you.
Yeah.
But you're going to need people to turn to. Like, life is too hard on its own terms to deal with it alone. I think that's men, that's women, that's humankind in general, addicts, not addicts. Like, life is hard, dude.
Yeah.
Life is hard, and it gets hard. And sometimes it gets hard for no reason.
Yeah. We were meant to experience life with each other. Like we were meant to be with other people, and just like,
we're definitely pack animals. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And we gotta walk in that humility of just, because a lot of times for men, man, we're just, I don't know, we're just trying to feel like we got to walk this hard line to maintain this just tough exterior of this is what masculinity is. And a lot of times it's just ego-driven things, you know, that we got to walk off and just realize that we need some people, you know. I definitely realized my need for people. So, and that's one thing that I never did. Like you said, if you're a young guy and you just pack a car full of your friends and just go do whatever, I never did that, dude. Like from the time that I got kicked out of high school, dude, it was dope. And then like the only people that I hung with were other addicts, like not friends, just people we had acquaintances that
means to an end. Yeah, bro.
We had zero in common. Like if outside of just using dope, like I would have never talked to them.
Luckily, in my early 20s, right, like because I was on again, off again with opiates, which was like my drug of choice, or like my problem drug. Because I was like always just I was down for a fucking good time.
Yeah.
But like the thing that kept me off of opiates, it kept me like I would do benders with them. I would do like short little romances with them and then come off, and then do short little romances with them and then come off. And a lot of that was because like I did have an actual friend group. And none of them had whatever the fuck it was that I had. Yeah. So, like, they would eventually, like, if I would disappear for long enough, they would be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? And they would reel me back in. And then, you know, like the EDM community, which I was a pretty prominent DJ in my early 20s. Like, opiates was super frowned upon in that community. And you know, like rightfully so. Like they don't do anything good for anybody. I've
Right.
never seen somebody start shooting heroin and fucking fix everything in their life.
No.
I wanted to be the guy who figured out how to do that.
No, dude, within 2 weeks of starting to do that, it went south fast.
Yeah, so fast. But yeah, like luckily, like I had a group of friends like that.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, shortly after like they moved away, like because all of us like ended up in different corners of the country and stuff.
Yeah.
Shortly after they moved away, and you know, like all my friends were centered around means to an end before I knew it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's when I really hit my bottom. And I say this a lot, you know, because I'm just really glad that my drug of choice or my problem drug of choice was heroin, because you do hit bottom so quick. Like it'll bring you down so quick. Alcohol is like a slow death. Heroin will bring you to your knees real quick. Like it's really hard to like maintain normalcy.
Yeah, I mean, you can somewhat maintain an addiction when you're around the $60 a day mark, but when that mark goes in 2 weeks to $300 a day, it gets hard to maintain. When you're spending $72,000 in a year and you don't work a job.
When you're sick every fucking 6 hours, it's hard to maintain a job.
Yeah.
You know, when you're calling into work because you couldn't find anything that morning, because like, dude, always, you know, I would buy like a lot.
Yeah,
I would buy
because
like
you're
a
going to
lot.
space it out, right?
Yeah, because like, bro,
We're
I'm going to
rationing.
save a little bit for the morning. It hit like 2 a.m. and I'd be like, I'm just going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it now.
And then a couple of hours later, even doing your rewash one more time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Drawing that up real quick.
Yeah, just another cotton, you know, just a hope shot.
And then you end up getting cotton fever by chance on that last round, and it really takes you down.
Oh, yeah. And then you got to call into work. You've only had this job for a week, and they're like, yeah, we're going to let you go. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough.
But it's fine because it's also the 6th job you've had in a month and a half. So.
Yeah. You'll be fine. You'll just go get another one.
No worries. Probably in a restaurant so you can get tips really fast, and like that way that the dope man can be there about 2 hours after you get there. You got enough tips to go ahead, and bro, I'm gonna need you to swing back by one more time at the end of the night.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ever a server, but like it's funny that you said in a restaurant, because yeah, the only legal line of work that I ever did before hair was a cook.
Yeah.
So, you know, that kitchen lifestyle, and even when I wasn't on opiates, you know, like that kitchen lifestyle is a party lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the food service industry especially is very you know, and that's, you know, those people, you get trauma bonded with those people. It's a hard line of work. You know, there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of things all over the place. I think that's why addicts tend to gravitate towards work like that. But, you know, like it's very based on, you know, like partying after the shift.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a small enough of a kitchen, you know, you might get shift beers just for working. Like they're like, yeah, when you're done, you know, come get your 2 free beers. You know, I remember at one kitchen job, we hid a handle of whiskey in the bathroom. And so every time we went to the bathroom, we all just like would take a shot of whiskey till we were like super drunk by the end of the night. Which, you know, it's worth noting, like there were times in my active addiction that were fun. That shit was fun.
Yeah.
That shit was funny.
Yeah.
That shit was like good times. Like I look back on that and like laugh at how crazy it was that we were hiding shit like that. But like on the flip side of that, there's some crazy shit too, because I remember being in a relationship with this girl one time, and I hid my ketamine in the wet wipes container in the bathroom at home. And she was like, I know that you're doing drugs in the bathroom. And I was like, I'm not. And she like checked my pockets, and I was like, I told you I don't have any drugs.
Yeah.
You know? And she like scoured the bathroom and couldn't find them too. And I just thought that I was such a genius. But really, like, it had to be so obvious. One of the things that I like to say all the time about my active addiction is like, I was the only fucking person who had no idea how high I was.
Yeah. And you think that people don't know. Like,
right, because you don't know.
Yeah.
You know? You're not,
for sure. Where's your pupils even at right now? I don't know. My pupils be gone, dude. Like that was always my tell. My eyes were a telltale for me real quick.
That's blue eye problems too.
Yeah,
Those
it
blue
is.
eyes, you know?
It is, man. It is. What's the craziest job you ever had?
Probably that job at Uncorked. Because, you know, like I haven't really had any super crazy jobs. The most fulfilling job I've ever had is this one, but the craziest job that I ever had was that kitchen at Uncorked, because it was just a bunch of misfits in a kitchen working underneath a real chef. Like that's where I learned how to cook.
Yeah.
Like,
so is that something you love to do? You like to cook?
Yeah, no, I like to cook.
Yeah.
One of the things that, you know, like I would do when I was in my relationship, or like wanted to do more often than we did, was like host friends.
Yeah.
And like I loved to cook for her, and I loved to cook for her son. And I still do, you know, like around Christmas time, I got to the point to where like I was like smoking prime ribs and like making a nice like au jus kind of gravy to go over them, or like a demi-glaze reduction on the side for it. And, you know, like even when I cook like my meal prep stuff, it's a little fancier than say like, you know, Miles has been on here before.
Oh, yeah.
My man told me the way that he seasons his chicken, and I was like, why would you do that? Like Chick-fil-A literally fucking exists.
What does he do?
He just fucking seasons one side with like salt and pepper.
Oh, I don't even do that.
And then like bakes it.
Oh, dude, we put chicken breast in an Instapot. Don't put anything on it, just in an Instapot. As soon as it comes out, we shred it. I put it in a container. I put my rice in a rice cooker, no salt, put it in the thing. I salt it whenever I eat it, but that's it. And I'll use like sugar-free barbecue sometimes and stuff, but...
No,
it's just a mindset, because at that point when
I'm
you're just
marinating it, I'm smoking it. I'm like,
in my mind, it's just chicken and rice, and so it's like I'm not eating this for taste. And one reason I do that is to try to teach myself something about food, and that's I don't eat for taste. You know, you eat for it to fuel your body. And not that you can't enjoy food.
No, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I was talking about that earlier. I wish I was there.
It's just a mindset that I don't know. I've just gotten to, I guess, as I've done this.
I mean, I did that this morning, you know, because I made some breakfasts this week that were just like eggs and turkey bacon. And I've been eating like, you know, like this is like for before working out. So I've been eating that, and then like a rice cake with some peanut butter and honey on it, so that I have like some sugars to burn through.
I love rice cakes. I like them apple cinnamon rice cakes.
Oh, bro, it was an apple cinnamon rice cake with some peanut butter and some honey on it.
I use PB Fit peanut butter. Have you ever used it? The powdered peanut butter?
Yeah, usually if I'm making overnight oats, that's what's in it.
Oh, that's cool.
I've
not done that.
Had
but I have, like, since I've started using it, I cannot eat regular peanut butter. I can't.
So you like actually mix it into the peanut butter? Yeah, I did that one time. I didn't do it. But
no, I just mix it with water and it becomes peanut butter.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have all the fat and stuff in it. And so it's a lot less in calories.
Yeah, it is a lot less in calories. Sometimes those fats are good though. That's why
they
I like
are.
to.
I'm going into a bulk right now, so I can have more. And I like to have vanilla almond butter. Like if I'm having some stuff with fats.
See, I haven't played around with a lot of the other butters. I have put cashew butter, like, you know, because I follow some people that make some pretty cool meal prep food.
Yeah.
So I followed some of them. And this one dude made like a chicken curry.
Yeah.
And it had cashew butter in it. So I have played around with it in that way, but I've never straight up eaten it. I have eaten some almond butter before, but like...
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, and it's the Kroger brand is what's it's the best one I've found. It's like Simply whatever, but it's vanilla almond butter, and I eat it with those Dave's bagels. They got those blueberry, they're high protein bagels, and oh yeah, you got to get on that.
Okay.
Oh, every
High
day.
protein bagel,
I
dog?
eat them every day.
Yeah, I'm
it's
in there.
like 13 grams. So if I eat the bagel with PB Fit, it's like 30 something grams of protein. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
I eat it every day.
How many
dude.
calories is that?
The bagel, I want to say, is 180, and then the PB Fit's like, 90 for 4 tablespoons, I think.
Yeah, so you're right underneath 300 calories
And
with 30 grams of protein. That's
and
solid.
26 carbs. I think there's 26 carbs because you still got the carbs that are in the bagel.
Yeah.
You know, so it's solid. Yeah.
That's a good plan.
You know, dude, you should have seen how I done prep. Like, people don't believe me a lot of times when I tell them how I done prep. Dude, I was eating PB&Js all the way up until peak week. 2 PB&Js at a time because I figured out how to make 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches under 300 calories, and I think they taste great. And they were like 40 grams of protein in 2 of them.
Okay. I'll
get you on it, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's not bad.
It's not.
I love a PB&J, dog.
Dude,
That's like been a staple. That's been a staple in my life since like I was 5 years old. So
yeah,
you know?
For sure.
I definitely still love a good PB&J sandwich.
Oh yeah, dude. So when you go to Colorado, are you going with some people that's in recovery, some friends, or are you just going solo, or what you doing?
No, but I am gonna take some time to scope the recovery scene out there because there's gonna be. So I have a friend, like he's a really close friend, somebody that I look up to as well. He lives in Colorado. He's a normie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's got. Bro, I never could have done this in any of the times that I did drink. You know, once again, like I might have illusions about the kind of person that I could be. But he's got, you know, like one of those whole like whiskey bar setups over there. And it's all like, I mean, you can tell that him and his wife are putting like little dents in it.
Yeah.
But I've seen them like come home after like a hard day, make like one drink, right? And just be like,
how do people do that?
Right, bro.
Like, yeah.
But sometimes my brain's like, you could do that.
No.
My brain's like, you could do that. What if you could unwind like that?
Yeah. No. It's not just one. Like, it just, I don't know, man. I don't know. But, so is that where you're staying? Are you staying with them?
Yeah, so I'll be staying with them. That's where I usually stay when I'm out there. So I'll be staying with them, and he's taking off work for a while.
Yeah.
But, like, I'll be on the 5th through the 12th. On the 10th, they're flying somewhere for the wedding of a friend.
Gotcha.
So on those days, I'll probably, because I'm going to go with them to the airport, get a rental car for those 2 days so I can get myself back to the airport on the 12th. So I might spend the 10th and the 11th just kind of trying to check out like the recovery community in Colorado. And, you know, like I'm sure that I'll snowboard too because like, you know, I've already paid for the lift tickets. Like I've got an Icon pass. So I've paid like $1,000 to be able to go to like 7 different mountains.
Oh, that's cool.
Or like, it's like 5 out there. There's like 4 in Utah, you know, and there's like some in California.
Gotcha.
There's like different mountains all over the world. There's even some in Japan, although like Japan won't let me in because my felonies are drug felonies.
Oh yeah. See, I got really fortunate, I guess, with that. I never had a drug charge. All my charges were because of drugs, though, and so I guess I got a little bit fortunate on that. But what's your favorite place that you've been snowboarding?
So, like, mainly where I've been is North Carolina and Colorado, right? So, obviously, Colorado over North Carolina. If I were to give an overall number 1 out in Colorado, it's Copper Mountain. It just has everything, and it's not so far away. My number 1 would be Steamboat. If Steamboat's so far away from everything else, it's like a secluded little mountain town. It's the coolest, cutest little ski town you've ever seen in your life. It's rad. You know, the U.S. Olympics team trains their ski jumpers there.
Gotcha.
And the mountain is like really wild, and their powder is like way lighter and fluffier than the rest of Colorado because the town's named Steamboat Springs because there is a spring there that shoots off like Old Yeller. Yeah. And it's like, you know, very sulfuric.
Gotcha.
So like it sounds like a steamboat.
Yeah.
When it shoots.
That's cool.
And that mountain is really great. It's just really far from everything, which is why Copper ends up getting my number 1. The best day I had was actually at Keystone, but I think it was just conditions, you know. It like snowed 20 inches overnight before I got out there, so I was in like knee-deep powder the whole time. And you know, as soon as I went through my first little pocket of knee-deep powder, I was like, well, I'm a crackhead for that. I was like, I've never experienced anything like that.
So what is it about snowboarding that you love the most? What draws you to it?
So at the end of the day, snowboarding, what you do is you go basically 11,000 feet up on this mountain. Strap yourself into this board and like tame nature. Like it's just you and the run. And, you know, like especially on days when it's snowed enough for it to be like a powder day, you just kind of cut and surf through the powder. And it really does feel like you're just taming nature. Cause like, you know, especially out there out west, it's different than here. Like here, we don't really get enough snow to do like tree runs and shit. But like you can cut your whole way through the mountain and just like come in and out of trees and just be going off cliffs and just doing like the gnarliest fucking sins. And so like it's something that's physically engaging and it's something that's mentally engaging. And then you have the spiritual aspect of being out in nature. Yeah. And like I don't know if you've ever been in a lot of snow, but it's sound dampening.
Yeah, no, I do know that.
It's sound
for
dampening,
sure.
so it's quiet.
Yeah.
It's quiet, it's big, it's wide, it's open. And so I think that's really what I like about it.
It's just the freest place you can find.
Yeah, it's
pure freedom.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And what my whole quest has been is for freedom.
Yeah.
You know, it started in jail because that's where I got clean.
Yeah. So how long ago was that?
Oh my God. So I went in February 2nd, 2018. I got out October 3rd, 2018. My clean date is 7/10/2018. So I was still getting high in jail. And then, you know, like, honestly, like, I don't know if that's actually my clean date. It could be later than that for all I know now. But originally I picked a date where I was sure that I didn't use any more drugs in jail. But since then, you know, like a couple of years in, I was like, damn, it might actually be later. But I was like, at this point, I have 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Whatever.
Regardless of what the date is. And, you know, like, I don't feel convicted enough to change it. So, but like, yeah, in jail, I really wanted, like, my physical freedom. I wanted, like, the purest sense of my freedom back. Like, I wanted freedom in the very physical. Like, I don't want to be in jail. I don't want people to tell me what clothes I can wear. I don't want to be told when I can and can't leave my cell, go to the bathroom. You know, like, I wanted freedom from that imprisonment. And then when I got out, I wanted freedom from the compulsion and obsession to use drugs. And then as I got further into that, I wanted freedom from some of my worst parts. And I think that's still what I'm working on. You know, like, I still have preconceived notions of who I am, how I am, and what I do that I want freedom from. Like, I want the freedom to be the person that God created me to be, or like my highest self, or like whatever you want to call that. Like, I want the freedom to get away from even the things that I view as negative aspects about myself. You know? And I know that, like, as long as I stay clean, and I think this is one of the reasons that, you know, like, I haven't been drawn back into using, is that, like, you know, I know as long as I do stay clean, I get a chance to learn how to process and accept my emotions and accept my negatives and kind of learn how to own those things so that they stop owning me.
Some of them. Like, you can't stop them. They're just built in us. We all have flaws that are built in our DNA.
Yeah, definitely not on my own. I think, you know, as far as, like, some of the flaws that come out in certain habits, I don't think I can necessarily change all my defects, right? But I think that if I cast enough votes towards the positive, I can learn how to rechannel some of them, especially some of the ones that, like, make me very dissatisfied with myself. Yeah. You know, and it's just about the same discipline that I haven't put into, you know, always eating right to get the body that I 100% want, you know? Yeah. You know, it's just going to come down to the matter of casting those tiny little votes every day. You know, casting a vote, like, you know, like, every time that I get up and go to the gym before work, I'm casting a vote towards, like, I'm the kind of person that gets up and goes to the gym before work. You know, just like when you were in prep, every time you were on the treadmill and your kids were eating chicken nuggets. I remember that story last time.
It was French toast sticks.
French toast sticks.
Because it wafted in here.
Oh, yeah. God. French toast sticks. And you were in here on the treadmill and you would eat chicken and rice instead. You casted the vote for, I'm the type of man that can make this decision. I'm the type of man that will do the hard thing. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, for sure. You got to dig in and you got to wrestle sometimes, and you got to figure out who you are. You got to wrestle with some things. I was listening to Jordan Peterson. Do you know who Jordan Peterson is? He does podcasts and stuff. He's a motivational speaker. He's very brilliant, truly brilliant.
I think so.
He said the other day, he was talking about wrestling with God. And he's talking about Jacob wrestling with God, and how in Romans 1, God gave every man a conscience, a moral law written on the heart. And if we're wrestling with that moral law that God gives, we wrestle with God. And so Jacob wrestled with God, and God changed his name to Israel. And it's a beautiful thing, man. And so when we sit there and we wrestle with our conscience, we're wrestling with God. The thing that he gave us, the only thing that in us that points to him is our conscience. He gave that to us, and a knowledge of himself. But I think that that's a beautiful thing, and that's why sometimes you've got to dig deep and you've got to wrestle with yourself, right? Because you're wrestling with the thing that God wants you to wrestle with. You know, he wants you to learn yourself. He wants you to love yourself. He wants you to find that freedom in him, right? There's freedom to be found in him, and I continue to try to do it my own way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, like that's really, wrestling with God is really relatable for me. I think sometimes I want to try to fist fight God.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I think sometimes that's how resistant I'll be to change. And some of the things that I'm still doing kept me alive at one point.
Yeah.
They're just not serving that purpose anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not in the same environment to where I need those things to survive.
Yeah.
So now they wreak havoc, right? And like I like that you're saying, the moral compass is from God, and wrestling against that, continuing to act in certain ways.
Yeah.
Especially because, like shame has been a really big topic isn't the right word. It's been a really big theme in my life.
Okay.
Shame has been a really big theme in my life. And I've been learning that shame, it'll tell you sometimes like this is who I am, But I think what it's really an indicator of, like when I feel shame, is like I'm doing things that are not who I am.
Yeah.
I'm doing things that go against who I am. So now I feel this shame, and shame follows guilt, and you can't feel guilt without a conviction that you've done wrong. And you wouldn't have a conviction that you've done wrong if you didn't believe something that's the opposite of that to be what is right. Right? So I think shame is really more of an indicator that I am acting against who I am.
Yeah.
Or, in the spiritual sense, I'm acting against who God wants me to be or who God made me to be.
Yeah.
So I'm wrestling against, my truest self for people that can't stomach the G word.
Yeah. Dude, one of my problems is I tried to confine myself into that American Christian box for so long. Like in my recovery process, I did turn away from NA and fully into spirituality. Like in church, I was very active. I was preaching behind different pulpits like almost every Sunday.
Yeah.
I had went up to the prison, Morgan County, and spoke to them up there, and I had some amazing opportunities. And then I realized one day that I had confined myself into such a box in Christianity, and that it can't be this. Like this is too, like when I would think about my theology and my doctrine and what I knew about God, I started realizing that I only knew what I was taught my whole life. But I started seeing flaws in that versus what I would read and study in the scripture that we based everything on. So one January I sat down and I was like, I'm going to forget everything that I think that I know and everything that I've been taught. And if I'm going to believe this book and I'm going to base my life on this book, I have to read it and take it at face value, because if somebody else is saying something that doesn't jive with this, I have to toss it aside and believe that this is more accurate.
Right.
I have to. Once I did that, it changed everything for me, though. And I couldn't see scripture the same way. I couldn't preach the same way. I stopped getting invitations to come preach because all of a sudden I'm not preaching this really shallow theology that's a quarter inch deep and 1,000 miles wide. Like I needed something with depth. I'm not your typical Christian. I'm not. I don't fit into that box. But I do know that based on my own life and how God still, some reason, continues to deal with me after all the shit that I do, and he continues to deal with me, and he continues to convict me, and he continues to show me that he is always there. Long before I ever knew he was there or accepted that he was there, He was there, and it's orchestrated and displayed all through my life, dude.
I mean, that's where I'm starting to get, my 11th step is coming back up on me quick.
Yeah.
Which, like we just took different paths, but like my 11th step's coming up on me quick. And, I have a desire to get close to God because, there's undisputable evidence that God has been with me. Even when I cursed his name, swore up and down he couldn't exist.
Bro, I was a Satanist. Yes. Yeah, we can talk about that.
I definitely wore pentagrams around and shit, but like I never fucking bought into Satanism.
I was in it.
I was so nihilistic and atheist that like nothing could be fucking real. So the Satanism shit, that was stupid too.
Yeah.
That was stupid. Any belief system was stupid.
Yeah.
And I was like, everything's just cause and effect, bro. Like this fucking happened cause you did this. And that's
we're all just here by cosmic chance. We're just pond scum floating in the universe.
We're just a fucking horrible punchline.
Yeah.
Like this shit is a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I always love talking to atheists. They're fun to deal with sometimes.
Well, I think for me, especially with where I was at, like it was how I quelled part of the disease. It was how I got my ambition to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Because, like, if anything had meaning, then me squandering my life away like that was actually working against that. So the belief system that there were souls and spiritual things and anything beyond just what was face value and what was pointless and what was stupid, like that didn't serve to help me continue to just like annihilate myself.
Yeah.
And like it was easy for me to throw out the idea of potential or the idea of purpose, because if life was meaningless, then purpose was bullshit.
Yeah.
And so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
That I was doing all this other shit.
Right.
That I was doing all this, like things that, even me now, I'm looking for my water. Even me now, I would consider it like so insane,
Yeah. Like, I don't know, where did it go? Did you have one?
I did when I walked in. I haven't drank it yet, though, so it might be one of those.
I mean, this got some out of it.
I'll take it.
I have used water from a toilet before to shoot dope with. I think that, I can handle pretty much anything.
Yeah, I think I can drink after somebody. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
But for me, where I kind of got into the whole Satanism thing, I was actually fairly young. I was 19 when I was raised in a very hyper-religious home that used religion as a manipulation tool in so many ways. And as a rebellious teenager, I obviously started gravitating away from that. And in high school, I became the goth kid. I gravitated toward just like this. I don't know. There was something about the darker stuff that just drew me in, and it was a comfortable place for me to be. I don't know. I felt comfortable there. I don't know. And to this day, I've still got a dark tone about myself. I always have, I feel like. Sure. People tell me all the time. And so, but had just gotten kicked out of high school, I think, and was just moving out of my parents' house. And I had been really studying, because I'm an addict. Like, this was like one of the first signs of my addiction, like outside of just drugs, was, so once I obtained the Satanist Bible, I kind of found this group of people that I had kind of just fallen into, and I went with somebody else, and then it just ended up being this whole thing, and I just kind of fell into it. But I was loving it because I saw physical things happen that I couldn't deny, that there was some sort of power that was there that had the ability, and it was a power that was intriguing. Like, to a kid that always felt like he never fit in or something like that. Like, I'm about to be Voldemort, bro. You know what I mean? And I didn't even know anything about Harry Potter, man, because my dad wouldn't let me watch Harry Potter because it was of the devil. And so, but anyway, so I gravitated toward this stuff. And once, I'd gotten the Satanist Bible by Anton LaVey, and I really started studying, man, because I wanted to know it. And it was really interesting, and the way that it kind of presents itself, it purely appeals to human nature, where the Bible, Christianity, goes against human nature. Like everything that your body wants to do, Christ and the scripture says you have to fight that because it's not kosher, right?
Yeah.
Well, like if somebody hits you, we're supposed to turn the other cheek, right? And let that you just be what it is, and find some humility. But like in the Satanist Bible, if somebody hits you, you go back twice as hard. It appeals to that human nature. So I'm like, man, this makes a lot of sense. Like this fuels everything that I want to do.
Yeah, this reaffirms these things that like I've felt to be true. So I think, at 19, right? Yeah. It's really easy to fall into something like that.
Yeah. And so I didn't. And to me, it was more than plausible because I was raised in church and never questioned that God was real. But I was in that same mind, I guess Lucifer was, this pride thing that, no, you can be greater than God. Like there's something greater out there. It was an intrigue for me. And I think a lot of it was just driven by rebellion from my dad, honestly, looking back. But anyway, so one night, I had come home. I was living with one of my first girlfriends at the time. I moved in with her whole family once I left my house. And they lived in a trailer up in the woods. And so it was this long gravel driveway. There's no lights up in there. No, it's pitch black when it's at nighttime. Well, when you pull up in the driveway, there would be a motion light that would come on. And it would stay on for like 5 minutes. Well, it was like 10 o'clock at night. I had that Bible in my pocket. Like I was coming home from work because I was wearing like cargo pants or something. I had it in my pocket. I got out of my car. As soon as I pulled up, the light comes on. I immediately get out of the car, shut the door, and as soon as I do, I hear something behind me. The light goes off. I whip around freaking out, and there was something that I stood face to face with that was darker than the night around me. I can't explain it, but it was there, and it terrified me. And I whipped back around because I heard something else behind me, and as soon as I did, the light came on, and there was nothing there. Well, I went inside the girl's house and I had told her what had happened. And she was like, I think you need to be done with this. Like, I'm pretty sure you need to be done. And at that moment, I was terrified. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. And this is not a joke, dude. So we took that Bible and we got her brother and we went outside. And he had this 5-gallon bucket of gas that he had drained out of the lawnmower. There was probably about 3 gallons in there.
Yeah.
Took the book and threw it in the bucket, threw a match. The whole thing goes up in flames. All the gas burns. Every page is dry. Doesn't smell like gas. Not even singed. All the gas is gone out of the bucket, though. We went back inside. When we came back out, speechless, bro. Like, what do you do? Go back inside her house. We take the book back in with us. And at this point, I'm laying back on her bed, and she's got a bar stool on the other side of the room, and she's sitting on the bar stool, and she's got the book, and she's just sitting there kind of thumbing through it. And all of a sudden, she ripped a page out of it. And, dude, it got so hot in that room instantly. I started sweating, and then she got scared because she said I had this look come over me, and it made her nervous. I felt fine. I just felt hot. But I didn't feel angry at her or anything. But she said I had this look come over me. Well, she kept ripping pages out of it and stuff. And then when she was done, she was going to her cousin's house to spend the night. And I was going somewhere else to spend the night that night anyway. And she didn't know what to do with it. And so she just like tossed it in the top drawer, right? And closed it. We left, come back the next day, and like every page was stacked perfectly on top. Not rebound, but stacked perfectly, nicely and neatly. Right back in the drawer. And she ended up taking it, I think, to her uncle or something who was a pastor. He ended up dealing with it or figuring it out. I don't really know whatever happened to it after that. But so at that point, I was so terrified and so scared of what I had seen that I was like, okay, I'm going to be an atheist now. Which at that point, you can't be an atheist because you've seen 2 different sides. And I can't genuinely be an atheist, so I'm like agnostic. Maybe, maybe not going to think about it,
Right, above my pay grade. Yeah, I spent a lot of time there too, especially at 19. But I think, a lot of the avenues me and my friends were going through to experience spiritual things.
Yeah.
Like we'd be eating
for sure.
hella acid and stuff. And my friends would be like talking about God, and I'd be like, the fact that you even think that this is something that we're going to be able to figure out because we ate drugs. I'm like, yo, I know.
Maybe on some mushrooms.
I know you feel like you're, I know you feel like you're getting really close to like the spiritual answer, but like, don't forget that you just changed the chemicals that are in your brain and the way that information you already had in your brain is presenting itself. So, maybe, which like, thank God I was that logical to be like, maybe realize that this is already inside of you, and you don't actually need this to get there. And they were like, oh, well, then why are you eating this stuff? And I was like, because it makes me laugh and shit looks really cool.
Pretty much, dude. But what it kind of did for me, though, is I think once I did see that dark side, really experience that, then all it truly done was reaffirm the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all it did. And so, yeah, it was. But from that point on, like I said, that was when my addiction really started just kind of taking off. And then, I didn't think about it for years again until after that. I take it back. Once I got really strung out, I prayed every night that I would wake up. I do remember that. Like I would do a shot before bed and then hope that it wasn't too much. And I did do that quite often. But that was about the only time I prayed.
Yeah, I just, I don't even know if I would have considered it prayer at the time.
Oh, no, it's not. It's one of the foxhole deals that you said earlier.
The day that brought me to getting clean, it wasn't the day that I got clean, but it was the day that I got taken to jail. Right? Like I'd been facing this 8 at 30% for fucking 2 years. I'd been out on bond. And the only way that the DA wanted to even let me out of that, because my charge as it stood had the school zone enhancement on it. So that was 15 years. That was 15 years at 80.
Yeah.
And the only way that they wanted to lower that shit down was for me to wear a wire, for me to do controlled buys, for me to cooperate. And I actually went down on the heroin that was in my apartment wasn't mine.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was in my apartment.
Yeah.
It was stashed there by another dude. If I had known that it was there, I would have been doing it, which is probably why nobody told me. But yeah, so and I just couldn't do that. I just couldn't do it, and so I'd been facing that forever. Actually, that day I woke up in court. Like I was knotted out. I remember going to get drugs the night before. And I was knotted out, and I came to in court with my lawyer being like, yo, you got to get out of here. Like, the judge doesn't need to see you like this. You've got to get out of here. And I was like, okay. And
we're running an extension.
Yeah, I just remember being like, yo, let's just sign that 8. Like, I'm all the way back in. Let's just sign that 8. Maybe I belong in prison. Like, maybe that's the kind of person I am. Like,
I saw so many guys get to that spot in their head while I was in jail. It was just crazy. You feel like everything's just stacked up against you.
Yeah, I was just like, yo, I'm obviously, like, I don't belong in society. And he was like, no, you're just an addict. Like, we're going to send you to rehab. And I was like, oh, you right. There's girls in rehab. So I was like, and I think really it was just that I was going to get one more chance to get high. But yeah, I was like, okay, we'll put it out 3 months. And, like him and my mom both like wanted me to cooperate. I didn't want to spend, like I was like 25 at this time. I didn't want to spend what everybody calls the prime of your life in prison. And another thing that I know about myself is that I do, I'm very good at blending in to match my environment.
We're chameleons.
Yeah. So I was like, and I have this thing, like even, I want to be at the middle of everything. I want to be the focal point of everything. If some shit's going on, bro, like I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of the boat every time. And so like I knew that prison wouldn't be good for me either because, I would just go in there and learn how to be a better criminal.
For sure.
But what happened was really profound. I went to get my last hit. I did it and I didn't feel anything, so I cried. I cried in my girlfriend at the time's car, and I was just so incapacitated from sobbing so hard that I said a prayer. And at the time, I wouldn't have considered it prayer, but it was just like, please, like, give me any other option and I'll take it.
Yeah.
Give me any other option and I'll take it. And I didn't know at the time, but my prayer got immediately answered because these cops pulled in. As soon as I said that, I got this like profound wave of peace over me. And I was like, okay, just take me over to my friends. I'm going to tell them that I'm going to rehab, and then, like I'll go to Cornerstone like Mom wants me to. And
been there.
I still had some shit because like I just broke off a chunk of what I got.
Yeah.
So I was gonna get high again, obviously, but like as soon as I said that and I gave her a direction to start driving, the cops blocked us in. All the shit was still in my lap. I remember the cop coming up to the window, like ready to be a dick to me, and just kind of thrown off by the fact that like I'm wiping tears from my face.
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa. And I was like, look, bud, I know what time it is. Like I'm going to just go to jail. And then I was in there for like 8 months, but I was in there for at least 3 months before I even found out what was going on with me. The way the shit stood, it looked like I was going to prison for sure.
Yeah.
And I kind of just accepted that. But then my lawyer was like, hey, would you do this in-house program?
Oh, I remember that.
And then
were you in Knox County?
Yeah.
Okay, was it over in 3 building, or did they put it in DUI building?
It was in 3 building.
Yeah.
I was in ITP.
The God Pod?
Yeah. Well, the God Pod was 3D. I was in 3B, so I was in there with the workers and
That's
the ITP program.
That's right.
But he was like, hey, if you'll do this ITP program, because I would have never done the 3D. I wouldn't have done the God program.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have cared.
They started that the last time I was in there.
I was so against organized religion or anything in that vein that I would not, like, just in my headspace on principle, I wouldn't have done it. But he said if I did that and then took drug court when I got out, I could get probation. And I actually just came off probation this October.
Dude, that's so awesome.
But it was like,
how long was it total?
It was 7 years.
That's what I did.
I basically served a year and then had to do 6 on paper.
That's pretty close, man.
So like
part of mine was restitution. I should have actually been done at 5. And then I had restitution that carried too because it was so stacked.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah, I didn't have restitution, but I had some heavy court costs.
Oh, well, I had those too.
And I actually used my dad's life insurance money to pay off my court costs and to pay a little bit of my probation down because at the time, I wasn't making a lot of money working at Texas Roadhouse. I think I was making like $13 an hour, $13.50, which was a lot at the time for the job title that I had. But, like, now I've come so far, and I have an actual career and I have an actual purpose. And the way that I ended up with that career was a very similar prayer.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm in one of those moments where I'm saying a similar prayer again, like, just give me a path.
Yeah.
Like, just tell me what I'm supposed to do and where I'm supposed to be. I'm just like, I don't even think that I'm actually more resistant. I think I'm at the same level of resistance right now. It's just a little harder to see the signs than it was with the barbering thing. The barbering thing was really weird. I started getting text messages from family that was like, hey, have you ever thought about cutting hair like your dad?
Yeah.
And the way that came about was I was at my dad's funeral. I've had a little more than a year clean. I wasn't quite at 18 months, but I had a little bit more than a year.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad died, and I was at his funeral. People were talking about how much he loved what he did, and I thought that was such a cool legacy. Are people going to be able to say that about me? Like, what's my path going to be? And, it got me thinking about my own mortality, and kind of just made it, like, more important for me to find that. So I remember praying one day from the meat room at Texas Roadhouse, just like, this can't be all there is to life. Like, I need to know what it is that I'm supposed to do. And there were so many things that I thought that I would like to do.
Yeah.
And hair wasn't even on the leaderboard.
I never imagined I'd be a photographer.
Right. So, I just started getting these text messages that were like, hey, have you ever thought about cutting hair like your dad? Have you ever thought about doing hair? Maybe you should do hair. The family always needs a hairstylist. And then one of them was like, have you ever thought about being a barber?
You got to present it differently.
And I was like, whoa, no, I haven't ever thought about being a barber. And they were like, I think that would really suit your vibe. You should look into it. And then, I was resistant to that for a while. And I used to read The Living Clean by praying, being like, God, whatever I open this to is what I need to see. And I opened it to this passage that talked about, like, in recovery, we go back to school. We try what works and we take what works and we leave the rest. Because I'd been in my head like, oh, what if I don't like school? What if it's not for me? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then I said that prayer and I opened The Living Clean and immediately saw that. And I was like, okay, I get it. So then, I texted Tyler, which was the only person that I knew that was a barber.
Yeah.
Asked him where I should go to barber school and signed up like the next day.
Yeah.
And got to barber school. Didn't even look before I left. I didn't know what the barbering industry looks like. I didn't know that that Tyler did cool stuff in the industry. I didn't know that the industry had cool stuff going on. When I thought of a barbershop, I thought a $10 haircut.
Yeah, same.
Get what you get.
Because like through photo and video and Tyler kind of getting me started, and I was able to start doing some things with him, and like it got my foot in the door to several other barbers and to do some cool stuff, because I didn't realize that industry was so, it is a cool industry.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's definitely evolved from what I thought it was. But when I got into school, started checking out YouTube and started seeing where the industry was, and it's funny because like when I went to barber school, I was like, oh yeah, Tyler Trotter told me to come here. And like, I didn't even know I was name dropping somebody, but they were like, oh yeah, we know Tyler, you know? And I was like, okay, me too. Yeah. Cool guy. But like, seeing what the industry was doing, like I just fell in love with that. And I fell in love with it all comes back to freedom. Yeah. Like there's a lot of freedom in being a barber. And now, like I've come so far in that career and financially, but with other things falling apart in my life, I can't be satisfied with that. Yeah. I can be killing it in 9 out of 10 areas, but that 110 area is going to make me beat myself up.
Yeah. Sometimes, man, I just wonder what it would be like to because it's something I struggle with so much, because I want to be in so much control all the time, I feel like. But like, what if I just totally let go of my will and just, I don't know, just try to pursue something different that was just not my will?
I think that's something that I'm going to take, that I'm going to leave here with. Yeah. Is that question. Like, because it's also like in the step working guide, like what would it be like if I completely surrendered
just
my will?
Completely, like without
what
a
would
reservation.
My life look like? Yeah.
Like if I could just totally let go, man.
Like where would I be? What would I be doing?
That's crazy.
What would my life be like? What would I feel? What would I feel like? What would that look like? I'm going to take that with me today. I'm going to meditate on that.
I think that if you could find it, it would be the purest joy and peace that you could find in this life.
For sure, peace. I don't know if God's will for me is to always feel joy. I'm sure there'd be huge moments of it. Yeah. And I've felt huge moments of joy in my life.
I just know with like this, like when you look at the Apostle Paul, like that guy's life, it was the epitome of suffering. And you know what Paul says over and over and over? Here's the thing about Paul that I think that you'll love. I'm 110% convinced that Paul was an addict. 100%. He has the addict nature, the addict drive. God used an addict for his will.
This is Paul that became Simon, right?
Well, Saul became Paul.
Oh, Saul became Paul. Yes. Okay, I knew it was an S.
So Paul wrote a majority of the New Testament. It's mainly his account. A lot of it is. But Paul, he would go on. He would say over and over and over and over, when I suffer, happy am I. It's pure joy. And he talks about it over. And then you're like, okay, cool. Well, then you get like into, I think it's 1 Corinthians 13. And he said that, we were shipwrecked X amount of times, stranded at sea. He's like, by the Romans, I was beat 3 times with rods. He's like, by some other group, he had been beaten with a cat of 9 tails, save 1 stripe. And he had been through all of these, nights in prison and nights in nakedness and all of this stuff without food and all this stuff. And he said it was so bad that we despaired to live. And he's like, but he found perfect joy in those moments. And then it goes on to tell us that Paul had a thorn in his flesh, something that God had allowed him to go through constantly. And it says that Paul asked of God 3 times, 3 separate occasions, because Paul could deal with a lot. He was a long-suffering dude before he would break down. But it says at 3 different times that Paul inquired of God to remove that thing from him, whatever it was. And God would not do it. So Paul said, your grace is sufficient for me. In my weakness, you are made strong. Paul learned to dance with whatever that was, because he knew that if God wasn't taking it away, then God was keeping it there for a reason. Paul might not have known what that reason was, but Paul understood that in the full submission of God's will, he was just trusting. And God carried him all the way through. And historically, when Paul died, whenever they killed him, they beheaded him in Rome. whenever he done, Jewish history, it's not in scripture, but Jewish history says that Paul broke loose from the jailer and ran to the chopping block. Ran. Like, could not wait to go. He was about to be a martyr for Christ. There's no greater honor. He had finished his course, man. And like in his farewell letter, he writes to Timothy, it's a beautiful thing. He said, I've fought the good fight and I've kept the faith and I've finished my course and there is a crown set up for me. He had no worries, none at all, unfazed. Crazy. And he was an addict. If you read it and study it, dude, you can see all through scripture. It is so obvious. One day God just showed me that. I didn't get it. You can just see, because here's why. Paul said that when it comes to keeping the law, because he was a Pharisee of the Pharisees, which means that he was the top stock in Israel. Whenever he was killing Christians before he became Paul, before he had his conversion, because Saul was murdering Christians. That's what he was doing. Yeah. Like that was his job, and he was passionate about it. And so, but he says, I want to say it was at the church of Philippi that he told them that, oh my goodness, where was I going with that? I can't believe I just blinked out on that. Oh, that when it came to keeping the law and upholding the law, that he did not fail. And to be a Pharisee and a Christian that was a Pharisee. So now as a Christian, you have to speak truth. You can't lie about what you were. You have to be honest and tell them. He said, I did not fail when it came to the keeping the law. They had made it so hard, you couldn't possibly do it. Paul was so zealous for keeping even the smallest, like little jot of the law. He's like, I didn't fail at it. And he's like, and I had all these things and I count it as useless dung. He's like, literally, it's shit. It's nothing to me. Nothing. Actually, the word he uses is actually shit. It's not even dung. So that's just a fun fact for anybody who wants to kind of question that. Yeah. But anyway, it's just, man, he was an addict, dude. He was pursuant of whatever it was he was doing. And then God radically changed his course one day. And people say, well, God won't violate your free will. You can't tell that to Paul. Paul was on the road to Damascus with letters in hand that he had got from the Sanhedrin to go and kill the Christians in Damascus. And on his way, God stopped him, blinded him, appeared to him, and said, this is what you're doing now. And Paul, without question, just went. Violation of Paul's will. Paul didn't even question it. His whole life radically just changed and he submitted to God's will and he just went. My conversion, I had a similar experience, not as obvious, as crazy, as radical as Paul. Right. But whenever I had my conversion experience, I was in a jail cell. I was in Pod 4B in Knox County. It was May 16th, 2012. I had just come back from jail or from court. And they told me I was about to go serve 6. And it was my first time back because I had 2 capiases, 3 VOPs. I had just picked up 5 new felonies, 3 new misdemeanors. Blount County wanted me for a felony. I had 2 misdemeanors that were still pending in Anderson County. All that stuff was stacked up, dude. So they were like, we're done. We're done. I get back to my jail cell that night, and I'm sitting there, and I had a cellmate at the time, but for some reason, I just remember he wasn't in there. I don't know where he was because I don't know where he was at. I can't remember. But I just remember I was in a jail cell, and I wasn't praying. I wasn't asking. And then all of a sudden, I had a fear hit me that was overwhelming and consuming. And it was that if I got high again, I'd die and wake up in hell. And for me, I was so far away from God, not looking, not searching. I wasn't even trying to lie to myself about jailhouse religion anymore at that point. I had been so many times to jail. I had found so many jailhouse religion experiences, and I wasn't even lying to myself this time. I'm like, I'm done. This is it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, man, this fear, and I submitted to that fear. And it was the presence of God was so heavy in a jail cell that I remember I had to turn around and look behind me because I swore somebody was standing there. Literally, I remember it. And obviously, there wasn't. And from that moment on, I knew that I had to build a foundation that I could stand on when I got out of jail. So I spent that next 3 months, because fortunately in 3 months, I was out back on the street coincidentally. It's amazing how God started working and orchestrating my whole process through the justice system. I mean, you would have swore I was snitching. There was no way. I mean, but dude, Judge Sword was my judge in criminal court, dude, and the DA, they were trying to slam me with it, and he looked at me and he said, I don't know why, but I'm not going to make you go. but if you pick up a technical violation, I swear you'll go. And I was like, okay.
Any other option? Any other option, baby?
And like, but you know, I also needed that accountability. God blessed me with having 7 years of accountability from probation, you know, to keep me on track, to keep me focused and stuff like that. So probation was a blessing for me because I knew that if I picked up that I knew that if 5 years down the road I picked up a technical, I was still going. You know, because they're just going to assume I'm right back to the races, you know.
Right,
so that helped me so much, though, in so many ways. But, yeah, dude, my conversion experience, I don't remember feeling like that I ever questioned it. I just remember the fear happened and the submission followed, you know, and he was drawing me to himself. And the beautiful thing is in Romans 8, whenever it says that those that he foreknew, or those he predestined, he foreknew. Those he foreknew, he called. Those he called, he justified. And those he justified, he made righteous. Like from the start, like before he even created you, millions of years ago, there's a foreknowledge of you, what he wanted to do with your life. He knew all of it. But then the Bible also goes a step further that says that he is the one that will justify and make us righteous. He does all that. We wrestle with God to get to a spot of submission. When we realize we can't win, I feel like there's a wrestling that has to happen sometimes, especially for addicts. We have to have a wrestling to know that we can't win, that we have to submit to that one thing that is greater than anything that we think that we need. We think that we need this certain thing, but God knows ultimately what we need. And man, to purely find the submission of the human will to that, wow, that would be incredible, dude.
Yeah, just being able to put like so many things that I think that I have control over into the hands of something that I knew could care for it. And the thing is like, right, like I know God's will is good and I know that it's the best thing for my life.
Yeah.
But where the wrestling comes in is what if it's not what I want? You know,
which, like
what
I
if
said,
it doesn't line up with what I want? Which, you know, like I said, like my 11th step is coming up again.
Yeah.
And like, you know, right now I'm working on my 8th, which is going to be like a nice chance to forgive myself for some of the wrongs that I've caused. And this time, you know, wrongs that I've caused since I got clean. My last 8th step was all about shit that I did while I was high.
Yeah.
Which, you know, like I'm still very good and very capable of causing harm to people. You know, which comes back to the shame thing that I was talking about. But like, I'm ready to unburden myself, you know. I'm ready to like be a little bit more real, a little bit more free flowing with the truth, and a little bit, you know, less harmful and chaotic to the people in my life. You know, and I like how deep we've gotten with all of this. It's given me a lot to like.
Tell me this wasn't meant to be. Tell me that recording dipping out was not meant to be.
No, this is good shit.
Because the first one was nothing like this.
Yeah, no, this
like it was good, but it was a little bit forced, and we kind of drugged to get to a spot where it was getting good.
Right,
dude, we jumped into it today, man. This was amazing. I feel like I've been to church a little bit though. This is kind of nice.
Yeah, me too. I feel like I've heard some things that I was meant to hear. I've said some things that I was meant to say.
You've made some amazing points, dude, and I've got a lot of stuff that I'm doing. One of my ideas for this podcast of something I'm realizing that I want to start doing is like I've got my weekly one with a person, but then at the end of the week, I want to do another one where it's just me, because usually by the end of the week, I've sit and talked with several people, and I could seriously just sit down and make a podcast just reflecting back on the conversations I've had over the week, man, because once we leave here, dude, I'll be sitting here just stewing on a lot of this because you've made so many good points, man.
Yeah, same to you. Like I'm going to take a lot of this and apply it, you know, through the vein of step work right now, because that's where I'm at, you know. And then like I really just, you know, like I would really like to get more surrender in my life, you know. I would like to stop fucking fighting it. When I think about it, like that was why I left in the first place. That's why I left a woman that I was still in love with.
Yeah.
Is because I just wanted to stop fighting. I felt like I was fighting.
Yeah.
You know, and she, you know, and I don't know if I'll tell you to cut this at the end of it, but like she told me to like that she wasn't worth fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, I don't think that I'm supposed to be fighting with God.
Yeah.
Like, I want to surrender. Like, I want to surrender. I want us to stop fighting. And like, since then, you know, like I've done some things that I'm not proud of. I have, you know, like I've acted out and spiraled out. The last time we broke up, I didn't spiral and react the way that I did this time. But I've been faced with way more emptiness this time, I guess. You know? So like, dude, I would love to get some more surrender in my life. I would love to have a more viable, like, this is God's will in front of me. And, you know, I think that I'm going to need to make another spiritual arrangement. You know, like becoming a barber was a spiritual arrangement. I held up my end. Getting out of jail was a spiritual arrangement. I held up my end. I said any other option and I'll take it. And I took it and I exceeded my own expectations in that. Drug court's an 18-month to 24-month program.
I could have never done it, and they wanted me to, so I had to go apply for it. And when I went back to court, so they told me I wasn't going for the prison sentence. Judge let me go, said you pick up the technical. Well, then they said that they wanted me to do drug court, and so the judge entertained it. I went and applied for it, come back. They said I was an 80% chance of relapse. And the judge still said, I'm telling you, if you pick up a technical, that's all he said. And he didn't make me do it. And I was so grateful because, gosh, it's rough.
Yeah. So I completed drug court in 14 months.
Bro, that's beautiful.
I kept doing the next right thing. There was a moment.
I admire anybody that can make it through it.
There was
a failure.
Well, first off, this is another God thing. In Knox County, they made drug court a lot easier right before I got in there.
Oh, thank God, because it was impossible. They would just set you
They
up
wanted
for failure.
so much shit out of me, and I ended up not having to do IOP through them because of the ITP program I just got out of. They sent me to 3 different alcohol and drug assessments, and they were like, I just don't think you need IOP. Like, the way that you're speaking as somebody who's changed. And like the ITP stuff dealt with changing my perception of the world around me.
Gotcha.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It changed my perception. I was like, oh, like, you know, the rules on the street only apply on the street.
Right.
And, you know, like maybe I'm a little bit more accountable for my actions than I thought. And then I remember one time, dude, me and my friends, we left for a meeting, but we were hungry. So we went and stopped and got some food. And when we got this food, it was making us late for the meeting. So we were like, we should just drive around. While we have a chance to drive around, like a little bit of freedom from the halfway house, let's just drive around. And then somebody was like, let's just go have some drinks in Market Square. And I was like, I don't really feel like going back to my old playgrounds and seeing old people who are like really kind of rooting for me to do better. Yeah. And, you know, to make a really clear line to where that was going to hit us, I was like, we should just go off Baxter Avenue and get high. And they were like, great idea.
Yeah, let's do that.
And then this one dude was like, like we can actually go to South Knoxville. My boy will meet us.
Oh God, what a spiral. What a fast spiral.
And I was like, whoa, I just got my job. Like, I don't have any money. Like, I was trying everything I could to be cool. And they were like, we'll pay it. We'll get it for you.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, let me the fuck out of the car.
Yeah.
Let me the fuck out of the car. And like, this is the one time that I actually did snitch. I actually did end up telling on those dudes because the next day, one of them went out and got high again. He had to get Narcan by one of our friends. And I remember calling the director of the halfway house, R.I.P. Bubba. He's dead now.
Oh, yeah, man. I love Bubba, dude.
Yeah, Bubba was the shit. You know, which I'll touch on this in a second too, but I've lost a lot of people that taught me how to live. But I called Bubba and I said, I'm not saying that I know anything. I was like, but drug test the whole house. And he was like, I need to know what happened. Like, just tell me what happened. And eventually he coaxed it out of me. He was like, I'm going to make it to where, you know, like it's not like obvious that it was you. And then eventually, you know, like a year later, I told all those dudes, like, I fucking told him. Yeah. I was like, the reason that he knew that shit, the reason that I didn't get in any trouble with drug court and shit like that is because I told. Yeah. I was like, and they all knew that I told. And like, that was what Bubba always said about me, that I was the guy who got out of the car. Yeah. But I knew that if I stayed in the car and I made it down there with him, I would get high. Dude. I had a chance to get out of the car on James Agee and I took it. And I walked down to the McDonald's on the Strip, called somebody, had them come pick me up, take me back to my halfway house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had the same thing happen to me at Steps. Same thing, because Steps was or it was a halfway house for people coming out of prison and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
I mean, we got dudes coming 25 years out back on the street, and they ain't necessarily trying to stay sober. You know, them guys are ready to party.
Right.
And so in my house in particular, there was like 8 of us, and 3 of the guys like worked night shift, and the other 4, like our house kind of started becoming this party house. Liquor started showing up, then prostitutes would start showing up, and dude, I go up there and lock my door because all I'm thinking is technical. And after that,
any misstep and I'm done.
Dude, I would go lock my door in my room and just not let anybody in. I'm just like, I am as far away from this. And then I ended up having to go and say something because like, I am not going to prison for y'all. Not doing it. And I didn't even feel bad for it, dude. I really didn't, because I was doing whatever it took to stay sober. Like I was doing whatever I had to. And so it is what it is. But anyway, well, dude, this has been awesome, man.
Yes.
This has been perfect. I'm so excited. I'm anxious to sit down, and my wife, she's anxious to sit down and watch it. We'll be watching it probably the next hour. Me and her will be sitting there watching it. And but anyway, well, dude, thank you so much for coming back by. Thanks for giving me another shot with this. I do think that was definitely a God thing, because this has been incredible, dude. And we got to start talking more. We need to be in touch
for
more.
sure. I also, dude, I actually need to buy some cologne. So
Oh,
we
for
still
sure.
We still have time to talk. I gotta buy a couple of decants.
For sure, dude. We can do that. Well, man, I'll give you a plug for the barbering and stuff too on here. I'll make sure to send a link if you're in South Knoxville. What barbershop?
Nirvana Barber Studio. There's
Shout
a
out
chance.
Nicole.
Yeah, shout out Nicole for sure. There's a chance that I will be moving to Colorado. So the plug might not matter that much now.
Yeah.
But there's also a chance that God will intervene. Like I'm looking for God's will in my life. Maybe that's not it.
You'll find it.
Right.
You'll figure it out.
So we'll see. We'll see what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Well, thank you so much, man. This is Man to Mike. I'm Zach. Thank you all so much for stopping by, kicking it with us for a little bit. Gentlemen, I love you. Tell your people that you love them, and take care, and I'll see you all soon.